Attention as a constructor of time. We're going to question time a little today, and we're going to address the idea of what time is and try to decolonize time. You'll understand well what decolonizing time means because colonized time is the following. It's the time that when we were colonized, Europe, the philosophers, established a universal time. There is a universal time. So this universal time is similar to this existential self. There is a self that exists forever. Universal time is also something similar to this, and there is no universal time. It's a lie. Because time is a measurement, and this measurement is made by two cycles, okay? Two cycles and an observer. That's important. Time is measured by two cycles and an observer. It will always be like that. For example, you have a time that is measured by day and night. You are an observer, okay? I am an observer. I am within my breathing cycle, heartbeat, I'm within my cycle. So you have a lot of cycles. Wow, it's an observer who is within a lot of cycles. Okay. But if you were a machine, the machine itself would have a cycle. The machine's CPU, before it even had a little 555 amplifier, would only cycle, just repeating cycles. These cycles allow you to do things, start things, give them a start. So the cycle is the sun. The sun doesn't revolve around the earth, but let's suppose the sun revolves around the earth. One cycle. I, the observer, on earth with my cycle. Two cycles, one observer. Time, day, and night. Time, day, and night. So if you look at the physicists, say the following, Jackson the following. Universal time is like this. You put a mirror, another mirror, and a light here, and it bounces back and forth. It goes up and down. So this cycle of light hitting here and there, this cycle of light hitting there, there, and here, these two mirrors will give a difference in time, in cycle. Then I take a machine, an amplifier, a machine, a computer, and I'll measure it. The computer has a clock. It has another cycle to measure this cycle. So the computer itself to measure will measure according to a clock. And then a human or an artificial intelligence or something will see this measurement. So one observer, two cycles, and one observer. So alone time doesn't exist. Some say, look at the great substantiations of galaxies, and we realize that time itself, there's a distortion in time with gravity, with velocity, of course, a lot of things, but always cycles. And some galaxies appear in one place, and then the first galaxy appears somewhere else too. Obviously, okay, that happens. But it also happens if you look at objects and put a transparent glass and another transparent glass. You'll look at the objects and it gives the impression of two objects. Because of the refraction of light, there are two cycles. One light on one path, another light on another path. And this difference in cycles, I can define time, okay? But without two cycles, there is no time. Why do I talk about cycles? It's interesting to take this concept of universal time, which doesn't exist, and move on to cycles of time so you understand that life is a cycle. And this knowledge is ancestral, Amerindian. Before Europeans arrived on the American continent, cycles of time were already being discussed here in the Amerindian communities of the original peoples. Not time, but cycles. Things change, things rotate, they move. And when two things are moving, two cycles, if you have an observer, you have the sensation of time. So time is a perception between two cycles, at least two cycles. We'll see today that it can be much more than two cycles. And that's what the perception of time is. I sent you a little blog, and I'm talking about this little blog, Attention as a Constructor of Time. Look how interesting. Attention and constructor of time. That's interesting. Attention as a constructor of time. With attention inside you. Before attention, attention is your attention. Before attention, what cycles exist within you? hormonal cycles, especially the circadian cycle. The circadian cycle is the cycle that makes your hormones fluctuate in sync with day and night. As sunlight appears on the planet, it's day and then night. If you're a person, morning or evening. If you're a morning person, you wake up a little closer to dawn. If you're an evening person, a little closer to 10 a.m. So you cycle. Your body's hormones cycle based on the sunlight on the planet because the sunlight on the planet feeds the circadian cycle. And this circadian cycle, which feeds and even controls mTOR, which is a protein key that's inside the cell and controls the DNA. When mTOR is deactivated, for example, what will mTOR do? Deactivated, it no longer replicates cells. If it no longer replicates cells, it serves as autophagocytosis. So autophagocytosis, in fact, will recycle itself. And at that moment when mTOR is deactivated, there's better synchronization. I'm talking about synchronization at the cellular level. And that's important. Why do I synchronize better? Because I'm not duplicating the cell anymore, so the whole body can synchronize better. This is our zone two. In my approach, I talk about zone two. Zone two, when can you do this? When you're sleeping. Normally, your oximetry drops to 92, 93, 94. The hemator is deactivated, but the hemator is also deactivated during ketogenic fasts. During long fasts of 12, 13 hours, it is also deactivated. So it is deactivated and a cycle occurs. Your body begins to cycle. And that's funny because sometimes you can get lost in the cycle. Is the cycle the heartbeat, the breathing, the hormones? No, they all met in a phase, in the same phase, either above or below, in a synchronized place. Both the heartbeat, the breathing has the same beginning, has a the wave always rises and falls, but there's a part of the wave that's always cycled with everyone starting at the same time. So cycled, it's at the same time. Sometimes a very interesting thing happens, which occurs with a powerful machine, which is the functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI. The fMRI has a machine cycle. For it to work, it's a machine cycle. When the fMRI works magnetically, it throws a very strong magnetic field inside you, and then when the field releases the thorn, I won't talk about that, thorn, but inside you, the polarization changes. When you put the field in, it goes to one side only, the entire magnetic field, and when it stops, the field changes the polarization. And when I put an EEG inside the resonance, the EEG, to measure the resonance, it also has to have the same clock as the resonance. It has to be cycled the same. So the cycle isn't the factor of having the same heartbeat, respiration, and hormone timing, but rather they're all cycled. It's not random. The time between them isn't out of phase. It's not out of phase. There's no jitter. Everything is cycled. If you're cycled, that's it. That's interesting. Zone two, you're in a cycle. Zone two, basically, the hematorta is deactivated and you're in a cycle. You feel centered. That's interesting. What happens in our biological cycles naturally when I get out of sync? When I get out of sync, I have a need to do something, a need to adjust, a need to move. There's something to be done. So in zone one, which is where I impose my attention, I impose my desire, I have a desire, an addiction. I get out of a phase if I'm addicted, for example, to dopamine, to doing looking at Facebook, looking at Twitter, and following the Instagram feed. So I'm addicted to dopamine. Dopamine is something that sells the future. What's next? What's next? I'm always guessing, guessing, guessing. Normally, when you receive fake news on the internet about a politician, about a religion, about someone, you guessed it. You're guessing the future. Dopamine comes, dopamine comes, dopamine comes. Is that interesting? And if you get angry and stuff, suddenly cortisol comes. So these cycles leave you misaligned. If you're misaligned, you'll seek to align yourself. So there's this search for alignment, and we're talking about time and attention. Attention as a constructor of time. Why do I say this? Because if your attention was on something, that's something. When you put attention on something, what this something involves a lot of cycles, including your respiratory cycle, your heartbeat cycle, your heart rate variability, your hormonal cycle, hunger, the urge to pee or poop. All of your physiological processes are cycles. They're cycles. Hunger is cycles. So these cycles will occur. And when you focus your attention on something, it will enter a different synchronicity. It destabilizes. And each cycle has its own unique characteristics. It shifts from phase to phase. When you shift, you want to adjust. When you want to adjust, you'll move towards something. Move towards something. Let me make your life easier for you because otherwise it gets more complicated. Let's say you want to learn how to ride a bike. Man, learning to ride a bike, if you don't know how, you're small. You'll get on the bike and have to balance. And then your cycle starts to get complicated. There's the balance of your head, the vestibular system, your body, the pedaling, the steering wheel. And you can't balance all of that. You get out of sync, and out of sync, you lose your balance until the moment you learn with high performance and you ride the bike in sync. And so you can still vary your breathing and heart rate. Even so, you ride your bike synchronously. You've learned so much that you can now perform cycling in zone 2. What does it mean to ride a bike in zone 2? I no longer have to make an effort to ride a bike. I even ride a bike to rest, to relax and be, to get better. Because I learned to ride a bike. But when I was learning, I was in zone 1 or zone 3. I was under pressure to learn. I learned and I perform at a high level. Zone 2 free. I'm free to perform because I've learned a lot. This is very important for us, okay? And it's important for us to know about these cycles. In the text I sent you, it talks about universal time, which doesn't exist, okay? This time that cycles, and exactly there is a reference, and it needs two cycles, and physicists talk about this light hitting the mirror back and forth to see the amount of light that hits its phase and determine time. But even so, you will always need two cycles of light, and the other part entering our body, which is where our life comes in. We have attention. We are in a time where attention has been hijacked. This is no joke. It was hijacked. So before television, they gave you something, advertising, a little commercial, then comes the newspaper or the soap opera, something else, and people always want to hijack your attention with the soap opera. And in the middle of the soap opera, let's say no one pays to watch the soap opera, so I give the soap opera and sell the advertising somehow to whoever wants to show it. But I capture their attention span, so I'll also get that attention span with the cycles I offer you. I offer you stimuli that you like. When you go online, the stimuli are very intense. It's a lot of dopamine, one after the other, one after the other, because it's the perception of the future. It's what's going to happen, what's coming next, what's coming next, what's coming next. And dopamine gives you a half-second cycle. Dopamine takes half a second. It comes and I want more. It comes and I want more. It takes half a second. It doesn't have a 5 second, 20-second cycle. No, it comes and I want more. Then I get a kid who's playing a game or on Facebook or Twitter or wherever or Instagram. and something comes like another one, another one, another one. Dopamine takes half a second. That's its cycle. Man, it's a really fast cycle. That kid, when they come to talk to you, then you look at her, you go talk to her, she looks at you and thinks you're so boring, so dull, so worthless. You won't give her the dopamine that games, Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook do. You can't because she's devirtualized. I went to Germany a few days ago, and while in Germany, I went to visit a friend of mine. His name is Andre, he's a physicist. And there I discussed some things about time with him. He doesn't agree with my ideas since he believes in universal time. And I know that universal time, I believe in two cycles, universal time doesn't exist. But in my friend's house, he has three children him, his wife, and three children. He and his wife are the two physicists and the three young children, 12 years old. I don't know, 8, 9, and 5, two girls, a 12-year-old girl, a 9-year-old boy, and a 5-year-old girl. I love the 5-year-old age group, 3 to 5 years old. I gravitate more toward that type of child. Because there I really have a synchronicity of understanding the human before it is massified by our culture. And that's the beginning of the words. Very interesting. I played a lot with this child, with the little girl. But what I found most interesting, there was no cell phone. I asked him at some point, dude, talk to your 12-year-old girl, talk to your 9-year-old boy. Am I a 12-year-old boy with above average intelligence? But not because he's so intelligent, but because he's switched on. Her attention is focused. The boy's attention is also focused. And they work together to do things with me or to trick me into some games. But the whole family is in sync at every event. No computers, no one opened their cell phones, not once. I was there for, I think, 3 hours. Not once was a cell phone placed on the table or looked at, not once. The only person who opened the cell phone was when I was about to leave to take a picture. No one opened their phone. So what do we have here? Attention that belonged to the community, to belonging to us together, and not to something, an artificial intelligence algorithm controlling and hijacking the attention of one of the group members. In this case, it was a group, a community, their family, but my wife and I were there together. In other words, it was a community, a group of synchronized humans in sync. If there was someone with a computer looking at Facebook or something like that, there's that meeting where they were always looking at their cell phones and talking. It's not here. It's not here. It's not cycling. Attention is divided into other cycles, and they are metabolic cycles as well. I'll say one more thing and come back here if I have a moment. But it's important for us to understand this prioritization of cycles and to understand that this is what time is. When I mention this title, and this title is very interesting to me, Attention as a Constructor of Time, I don't think anyone has told you this. Neuroscientists aren't getting to that point yet, but with this live stream, I think they will, because it's like this. Naturally, I'm here, and if I'm calmer, I'm talking in this live. My time is related to my heartbeat, with my breathing, with my body movements. If I'm a little thirsty, for example, do I want to drink water or not? This is synchronicity. This satiety is synchronicity. And if I'm well, I'm in zone two doing, and at that moment, I feel in zone two, doing what I like, and without pressure to do what I like, and I have a performance in doing it because let's suppose I like doing these lives, but I was afraid now. I'm not afraid, I already know how to do it. Even so, I have a little attention here and there, but the attention of doing necessary for me to do it, almost a sustainable attention of sustainability for me to do something. So at that moment, I'm in zone two. If I'm in zone two, my body is in sync. So the movement of my hand is related to what I say, what I think, and sometimes I'm thinking, What am I going to say next? Then I get a little out of sync. You've seen this on my live stream several times. At some point, man, what am I going to say? And I get out of sync, and then suddenly it stops and comes back because I had a script to follow, and suddenly my speech went in a different direction, and it's out of sync. Then I have to find the synchronization again, and I arrive. At that moment, we're in sync. It's beautiful. And we have to talk about attention as this process of constructing time. When we pay attention to something, when a child pays attention to something, I already talked about attention in the other live, that we are multiplex. Our attention is like this. There's an event. The event is here. Our attention, which is looking here, looking here, looking here, is referenced at various points of the event. So, what are the points of the event? The brain has several signal inputs to your brain. Sight, smell, taste, movement. These are a multitude of brain inputs from the event that's occurring, and your attention will vary based on references. And it will also vary based on references you use from memories and learning to perceive what's in front of you, including beliefs. I'll use this belief to perceive that. All of these are references. But when I pull up this memory, when I focus on this sight or this hearing or this taste or this smell or this body movement, there are times when you have to move to perceive the event. A beat, a rhythm. If you don't do this to look and feel the rhythm, you won't feel anything. You won't synchronize anything. You don't have attention. So attention, when it goes to this rhythm here, I'm amplifying this cycle. This cycle here with the body, but there's my heartbeat, but there's my breathing, several cycles. The tension is this mixture, this synchronicity with which cycle you are giving more value to. That's fantastic. So you mean that with tension and its displacement, you can dilate time or reverse time? Yes, you can. And it's in your hands now because with your tension, you will focus. No rhythm, or at this rate, or day and night, or years, or moon. Your attention will shift in a natural or physiological cycle. Hunger, sleep. Understand? Look what I'm telling you. I'm saying that time. And now I'm going to add a little problem that my mother sometimes talks about and feels a little bit about. And this perspective gives me a better understanding of this problem. My mother is already over 80 years old, and she says that the hardest thing for me is the weekends. I said, why the weekends? It's a void. It's a very long, very complicated time. It's a nothing. Look how interesting. When we're in zone two at peak performance, we experience time dilation. It's also a time vacuum. You don't have the time. Zone two, you're in peak performance like a pianist or a cyclist racing at peak performance. You enter zone two in time, man, there's no time because you synchronize everything. When you synchronize everything, you don't have a time relationship. You've opened up time. Okay, exactly. A zone 12 is a very good thing. And for the elderly on the weekend with no one around and feeling this depression, it's bad. Yes, it's bad. Why is it bad? Because at that moment, when the elderly are there on the weekend, their time expands, time drags, time opens up into a huge space, an eternity of nothingness. So the elderly We're going to get to this. I want all of you to get to the 80-point mark, then to the 90-point mark, and then to the 90-point mark. There will come a point where they don't have the cycle. Whose cycle? If they keep breathing and their heartbeat continues, the cycle of this attention moving. What the elderly need. I'm over 60, I'm elderly too. What the elderly need is at various times to encounter humans, because the human will pass on their own pace, that of the child. Which is even animal related. You take some families that still exist, milking cows and so on, farmers, that whole thing. You have the rhythms of animals, this rhythm of the other, this cycle of the other mammal, of the other animal. This cycle is very important. The plant cycle is also important, but the plant cycle is very slow. The animal cycle is a little faster. It gives dynamism. So what do our elderly need to escape this depressive time dilation? It's not depressive, but this emptiness needs human encounters. It needs dancing, ballroom dancing. It needs walking, cycling. It needs to go for a walk in the park somewhere to see people. People have different cycles. People with hunger, look at the hungry child, look at the crying, look at something, look so and so, changing the baby's diaper. And there are all these cycles. It causes the elderly person's attention to shift to other areas. By shifting to other areas, they have the feeling of pulsating latent life. But doesn't this also happen with the internet? It's false. It's false when you look at another person, that other person, they have more than 12 dimensions, like 12 dimensions. Jackson, what are you talking about? You look at a person live in front of you. You're looking at me right now, listening. You're seeing 2 dimensions. You're seeing my voice and you're seeing my vision. Video, audio, and video are looking at these 2 dimensions, entering your brain, and you project sensations and emotions, the movement of my body and everything with this video audio. It will project everything into your brain. You came from something that is video and loud. Only the internet is video and audio. There's virtual reality, which gives you some tremors, something different, but more based on video and audio as well. Human beings, living beings are multidimensional. They have smell, they have color, they have movement, they have different cycles and display the cycle. And you hear the respiratory cycle of the individual in front of you. You see the sweat in front of you. You see a lot of things. And this dynamism creates attention in several other areas. You become a little more shy, less shy. You become happy. You may or may not have sexual attraction, sexual inhibition, disgust, or appreciation. You have a lot of feelings, and all these feelings, all this metabolism creates cycles within you. That's what we want, cycles. That's what we want, because with the cycle is what you're going to have. This dimension of time. Time shrinks, moves away, dilates, and contracts in these moments of social interaction. So what we need to know is that time, you can make time with attention, but you need humans. You need to interact with other humans so that this time has greater dynamism. This is very important. This dynamism is fundamental for you. You interact with other groups. So today I told my mom, if Saturday and Sunday are tough for you, it's because you're not going to the park, not going to church, not meeting other friends. Sometimes I tell my dad, man, you have friends who go to the park to play dominoes. They're all bums. Man, when you play dominoes in the park, you see others sweating, singing, talking, complaining, crying, thirsty, hungry. You're cycling through life, you're energizing life, the relational encounter with other people. It's belonging, it's being human. And attention becomes dynamic between one thing, another thing, and life has meaning. Life pulsates, it becomes latent. And this time, dilation of eternal nothingness, which would be a zone 2, is very good if you're at peak performance. For example, if you're cleaning the house, if you're taking a long walk, Yes, but if you're doing nothing, don't want to do anything, and you enter a cycle without time evaluation, and there's a little bit of a cycle missing, you get a little lost, and that time suddenly stretches, and an hour feels like 2 days. Time doesn't pass because there's a lack of friendship, a lack of human contact or contact with animals, especially mammals. So that's what I wanted to leave you with. When you have your attention and you have humans near you, your attention goes to one point, it goes to the other person's breathing. Are you hungry? Are you okay? Do you want to go to the bathroom? Do you want to do it? Have you done it yet? This dynamic attention to others and to yourself makes life pulse. It's latent. Look, soon so and so will arrive. It keeps cycling because then you focus on each area, each of your focuses. If you're listening to a song, you focus on the beat, or you focus on the violin or the guitar or the piano or the beat. You focus on different points, and that's life. This exchange of attention expands and contracts time. We need this expansion and contraction of time to experience life. And this expansion and contraction of time is simply attention in different cycles. And we return to ancestral culture and knowledge. Time doesn't exist, and what exists are cycles. So pay attention. With your attention, you control your cycles because by focusing on a phase, on a feeling of yours, you focus on this cycle and this one, or that one and that one, or this one and that one. And by focusing on these different cycles because your attention focused there or here, your dynamism, your perception of time stretches and returns, and that is life.